So the installation completed on the last video, and now Configuration Manager is installed. So the next step is for us to validate if the installation has been completed successfully or there was some kind of problem. So when we are looking at Configuration Manager primary site, there are some validations you need to do. When there is a CAS or is a child of a CAS, there are other validations. And when installing secondary site, there are other validations. So this is the bare minimum validations that we will need to do when we are installing a standalone primary site. It basically means there is no other site involved. So the first thing is, if you open the services on the Configuration Manager server, we should see that Configuration Manager has created some services. So, and the services are here: SMS Executive, Site Backup, Component Manager, and VSS Writer. So those are the 4 ones. If you're installing, for example, Configuration Manager on the same box as the SQL, then you're going to have a little bit more components or less, and also distribution point, management point, depends on what exactly you are looking for. Those would be the bare minimum components. The other thing, let's see if the folder has been actually created. So if we go where we installed, we should see so in this case, the program files Configuration Manager. And of course, Configuration Manager uses lots of groups. So if we go to computer management, we will be able to see here in local users and groups, there are some groups that Configuration Manager uses. For example, let's just order by name. We can see here config.mgr collected file access. We can see here SMS admins, SMS site system to site server communication, MP, SMS prov, stat, and site to site communication P01. So this P01 is the site code we use it. If we use it, let's say another site code, then this will be exactly the same. So it would reflect that. The other thing we are going to do is now on the Active Directory, let's see if the Configuration Manager has the rights to write into the or publish data into the Active Directory. So remember that we created the system management container. So we are going to the same place on the CN ecosystem, and then we have here CN equal system management. And you can see here that Configuration Manager has created some objects. And this is the SMS-site-P01. So this is basically the information about this site. And then Configuration Manager we use to update as required. As soon as we add more things, maybe another container will be created. So now back on the Configuration Manager server. So we see that Configuration Manager probably has been installed. Okay. The other thing we can actually look at logs. So if you go to C, we're going to see here there are some logs, and one is the setup config.mgr setup.log or log. And this is the log that is going to tell everything that happened. And at the end, what we want is Configuration Manager has completed. And then here a little bit before, you're going to see it's completed successfully or not. From time to time, you're going to get those errors here. So actually, I always get those errors. There is nothing to worry about. So, and some warnings. But so far, everything has been okay. Configuration Manager is installed. On top of all those checks, we can check if the Configuration Manager console has been also installed, because we select that option. So here on Microsoft Endpoint Manager, we should see now Configuration Manager console. And I'm going to click, is the first time you are going to open. It's already been connected on the server that we are, so we don't need to connect to any server. And now we are going to check, we are not going through how the console is, where we click and so on, but let's validate if the installation has been actually successful. And to do that, we are going to, on the left-hand side here on the bottom, there is a monitoring. We are going to click there. There is system stats. We are going to expand that and click in component stats. So this is actually telling us everything about every single component that have been installed. And we can see here the icon and the stats. So we can see here majority of things are okay, but we have some problems. And those are the ones that we are going to validate what exactly is happening with the installation. If there is a problem, if there is no problem, if the installation was successful with every single component, and so on. So the first one we need to look at is the database. So we are going to check for database. So here on the top, I'm going through filtering, searching, and so on later on. But where it says search, let's search for SMS_database. And here we have the notification monitor. So let's just right click, show messages, and let's select all. I want to see all messages that have in the last day. So for me, it would be probably a couple of hours, but the last day will be good. And here we can see every single message that happened for that specific component. And so far, all seems to be good. If we scroll down a little bit more, we're going to see here, there are some warnings. So this message is 2420. So if we actually double click, we can see here the description. The task, something, is configured to run today, but could not run with the scheduled time. So when you are installing Configuration Manager the first time, you're going to see those 2420 messages quite a lot. The reason is, all those tasks that supposed to be run, they run normally between midnight and 5 o'clock in the morning. So we installed past 5 o'clock in the morning, and yes, of course, Configuration Manager identified, well, you didn't run this task at 5 o'clock in the morning. So this is why it's happening, the error. If this continues tomorrow, after tomorrow, there is a problem. But during the installation, this is normal. So we should not need to worry about. The second one that we are going to look at is the SMS site SQL Backup. And you can see here the backup is on server 03. But before we look at this SQL Backup, let's go to the SQL server. Let's check what is on the SQL server. So the first one, let's open the services. And you can see here, we have the SMS site SQL Backup and the name of the Configuration Manager server. So, and you can see here, this service is running. Also, if we open the Server Manager, the Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, we should see that Configuration Manager is using that database. So we should see that the database is there and has some data. I'm going to write a simple query just for us to see if there is data there. While the Management Studio is opening, just remember to like the video, share with your friends, co-workers, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and remember to click that little bell icon so you're going to be notified every time we upload a new content. And also leave your comments, your questions, and if you're asking questions, remember, use the hashtag #AskRaphael so it's easy for me to find. Okay, so here on the SQL Management Studio, let's just connect to the database, and the query I'm going to write is select star from V. Oh, let me just change here to CMP01 from V_site. And you can see here there are some data. So I'm all good since that configuration manager is connecting to that site. Good, so let's go back here. And on the SMS site, SQL Backup, let's see all messages for the last day, could be just few hours. And the message that we are looking is this 4629. That is the component has been installed and is working. So basically 1013 is I should be installing, 1014 is I'm installing, and 1015 I finished the installation. Doesn't mean that's working. This case 4629 is the component is now online and it's going to be used, and there is no error. If you see the message 4959, it basically means the SPN wasn't configured properly. So if you want to look at the SPN, back in the configurations or the pre-requirements, we configure the SPN for our service account. So that is the video you need to look at. I will point out here somewhere, and also I will leave in the description below where you can find the video about the SPN. So the other thing we are going to do is now search for the SMS_site component manager. And messages for the last day. So you can see here there is lots of components. The main ones we are looking at here is the 1027. So the 1027 basically means that the component has been successfully installed for that computer. And you can see here now the 4629, the component is online. There are other messages that from time to time depends on if there is errors, if there is no errors and stuff like that. So, but for now, this is what you need to look at. The last one, or not the last one, there is a few more, is the SMS Hierarchy Manager. So on the Hierarchy Manager, we have now loads of messages. So the 3306, we can see here there are few of those. Is hierarchy process a file. So that's fine because configuration manager is still using loads of files. And you can see here we have more than just a few. Depends on how far you live into just after the installation, you may have more 3306. The other one is 3323. You can see here the hierarchy is using HTTPS or HTTP for communication. We're going to look at those options later. If you're just installing HTTPS, you're going to have another message ID. The 4911 is basically, it was allowed to write data to the Active Directory. So if you see, for example, 4909 or 4912, then 4912, you will have the problem writing data to the Active Directory. So then in this case, you would have a problem. And 4913, if I'm not wrong, also means that there is a problem writing data to the Active Directory. So if you see the 4911, this is a good site. And we already actually look at this anyway. So the last one, no, probably there is a few others. One is the Replication Configuration Manager. And I'm just looking on the other screen here that I can actually remember all the messages that we need to look at. And this is quite the same. We have the 10, 13, 14, and 15. And of course, we have the 4629 and no other error messages or warning for us to worry about. And now the SMS DMP downloader. So this one has a problem. So there is a warning. So let's see what exactly this is. We can see here there is a problem, a red X. And there is a problem because this specific period of time, the component has just stopped. So we were actually installing, successfully installed, started, and then the component stopped. And then later on, we can see lots of things have done, and then component started, and seems to be okay after that. So during the installation, it's normal to see the 1104 once, sometimes twice, depends on how quickly is your computer. On this computer, it took about half an hour to finish the installation, so I would expect to see at least once this message. Okay, it's just normal during the installation. If there is a problem after, so if this continue after the installation, then there is a problem. And the final one is the SMS WinNT server discovery agent. And in this case, what we are looking for is the ID 4202. And you can see here the description is server discover agent read the system rows and found 7 rows in the site control file. So just keep these 7 in mind. Now what we need to go is on the configuration manager console, we go here administration and expand site configuration and servers and site system rows. So here we have now count of rows. We can see the first one is 5. That's the configuration manager server. And you can see on the SQL, we have another 3. So basically we have 8 in total. But the site rows is actually telling us that there are 7, just because we have then the component server in 2 different servers. So this is counting as 1. Okay, but if you install everything in one single server, then the number should match. Okay, so from what I have just seen, everything seems to be fine with this server. No problem at all with the configuration manager. But let's continue, have a quick look here. Let's go to monitoring and see if maybe we have forgotten all those that have a problem. So we look at the DPM and we look at the database against others. But there is alert in the alert notification, cloud connection, and REST provider. So let's have a look on the cloud connection, see what could be a problem. In this case here, also during the installation, we have the 1104. So, and you can see here is just after the installation, just a few seconds after it stopped, did something else, and then started, and all good. So for this, because it's the installation, I will not take any action. The REST provider, we can see here around the installation time, we have this started and stopped because of a SSL service certificate, and after that seems to be working fine. So the whole process, configuration manager is doing stuff, then we stop the component, is also being recorded. In this case, 11604 should be ignored at this moment. And the last is the alert notification. And you can see again during the installation, but after the installation, the component actually started and is working since then. So no problem. If this component continues to crash, then we need to look at what the problem is. But because it was just during the installation, everything seems to be okay. So there is this for the validation. Just remember to like the video, share with your friends, co-workers, so everyone start to learn more about Configuration Manager or Microsoft Endpoint Manager. This series, of course, is Configuration Manager. And if you have any questions, leave in the comments below. Just use the hashtag #AskRaphael so it's easier for me to find where your question is. Thank you very much, and I see you on the next video.